ladies and gentlemen. We're back. Here we go. The 3HL is indeed back. How are you? I'm Joe Tilley. I'm in Nuevo Vallarta, Mexico. And of
sunny Mexico, right?
Yeah. And I'm joined by Justin Fox, who is the president and founder of the 3HL. And we're pretty excited to discuss today's news, the excitement that the 3HL is back and ready to roll again in the springtime. 3-on-3 hockey at the highest level. Justin and I can hardly wait. It's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be exciting. It's very exciting. So yeah, it's good to be on here with you, Joe. Thanks for taking the time while you're. I know we're gonna be doing this on a regular basis, but while you're down there in Mexico. So how is it down there? I know what it's like up here, but what's it like down there?
Okay, so I'm gonna make everybody jealous there for sure. It's 27 degrees every day here. There's the sun is shining every day. You know, at nighttime it gets down to about 16, 17 degrees. You know, it's a little chilly. You know, but overall it's pretty nice. The ocean is spectacular. The beach is amazing, and we're right here at the marina. It's beautiful, and it's a place to be. I'm telling you, it's really good. I'm sort of glad we got out of there when we did, but it's good. You know, it's we're happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess we're here to discuss essentially the relaunch of the 3HL
Right.
and how we're going to be doing it, right? So where do we start? I'll ask you, because you're going to ask a bunch of the questions. Obviously,
Right.
The 3HL is coming back, but what are your thoughts on the 3HL coming back? Obviously, you and I have been sort of talking about this for years now. You were one of the first people to kind of give us some, I would say, national spotlight or some ink, if you will, back in the day when on the first go of the 3HL. What are your thoughts before you start asking me questions?
Well, when you first approached me with the idea of about 3-on-3 hockey, I thought that's got to be great. I mean, you know, at that kind of level, you've got some former pros in there, some major junior players, like the talent level is there. Guys who want to play hockey in elite level, and it's a fun game. And let's face it, whenever we're watching a hockey game and it's tied after regulation, we're all jacked up about that 3-on-3 hockey for 5 minutes. We're kind of hoping it was 10 minutes, 20 minutes. Right. And you know, when we get that opportunity, even 4-on-4, you know, it's so much exciting. The game opens up so much. There's so much creativity, so much skill on display, and that much more than there is, say, on 5-on-5 when the rink seems congested. When, you know, love hitting, everybody loves hitting, but you can still hit in 3-on-3. But there's just a much more open game, and it's when you talk to me about like an actual game start to finish 3-on-3, I thought, this has to work. I mean, it just has to work, and because it's something we all want to see.
Yeah, no, I love it. I love it. So for those of you that are watching, I'll do a quick intro, and then Joe's actually the host of the show. So I think we're trying to just figure out the dynamics here. But basically, you can introduce who you are. That'll be cool for all the fans out there. But basically, we're talking a little bit about the relaunch of the 3HL. Using the Backers platform to essentially facilitate a community-owned and operated league through the 3HL crypto that will be releasing soon on the Backers platform. And then the individual teams will each have their own crypto, that stock essentially, or cryptocurrency that you'll be able to buy as a fan and be an owner, a community-owned team, be an owner in each of those teams. And we'll roll that out. We'll talk a little bit about that. So that's all cool. So Joe, why don't you take the show, you run the show. Why don't you tell everyone, who is Joe Tilley? Where did Joe Tilley come from? And then it's your show to take charge of.
So Joe Tilley, typical Canadian boy, grew up playing the usual sports, hockey included, of course, in Edmonton, Alberta. Boxing was the sport that I excelled at. Was Alberta champion 3 times, and got a chance to box in the nationals, got a chance to box internationally, and won the bronze medal at the nationals. And I after my boxing career ended about the same time that I finished university, and just shortly after got my first gig in radio and TV in Red Deer, Alberta, moved to Lethbridge. We got married in Red Deer. We had our first son, and my wife and I, Penny Claire, and then we moved to Lethbridge, and then we moved to Toronto in 1984. an opening came up. I sent a tape in. Pat Marsden had just said goodbye to Fergie Oliver, and my tape showed up, and they hired me, and the rest is history. At CTV, I spent 33 years there. Retired in 2017.
I was going to say it was a sort of a kind of a double-edged sword retirement, right?
Right.
Yeah.
They stopped doing sports in a strange kind of move, but that's what they did. So anyway, I that was my spiel. I worked there for many years, doing a variety of different things. Now I have my own show called Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show, and have a variety of guests on. And you can see all the former shows on YouTube. Go to Joe Tilley's Great Canadian Sports Show, like and subscribe, and you can check out all the latest shows that we've got there. And so so that's my spiel. And now, so Justin, tell us a little bit about Justin Fox and getting the 3HL on off the ground.
Yeah. So I mean, for those watching, obviously this is kind of a new show Joe and I are going to be doing on kind of a weekly basis. We're kind of streaming it right now to a couple different channels, primarily through the Backers Network. I will be sharing this into the 3HL streams as well. But one of the things so I mean, it's been an interesting kind of journey for me. Entrepreneur, did my MBA, kind of looked at kind of diving out on my own or going out on my own back about probably 8 or 9 years ago. Started a home healthcare equipment business, had 2 locations, decided or saw the opportunity. You said the excitement of 3-on-3, saw that crazy end when the NHL launched it in 2015. Thought, what if there was a league that played only 3-on-3 or exclusively 3-on-3? And that was kind of the advent or the inception of the 3HL. November 11th, actually, 2015, the 3HL was incorporated on Remembrance Day. So I sometimes put out posts lest we forget. Obviously, I have a long history of war veterans, so I have that tied to it. But also, the 3HL was born on that day. But fast forward, we had a couple seasons. We had some great, exciting play. As you mentioned, we were on CTV nationally. We had a number of different things that we did. We had live streamed events. We did a whole bunch of different fun things in 2017, 2018. Unfortunately, things kind of went a little south. Over the past couple of years, it's been an interesting kind of for myself. I watched as my one business kind of I would say imploded, exploded, went away. The 3HL was put on hold. I myself was actually shot multiple times, spent a little bit of stint on life support, couldn't walk for almost 7 months. So in 2019, which was a little bit of a interesting story to be probably told another time. And then obviously COVID, everyone's been dealing with COVID. So from 2020, beginning of 2020 onward, we've all been dealing with COVID. So it's been, as much as I've loved to try and restart the 3HL many times over. And we've had, our little group of people, which is growing, yourself, Joe, myself, Ari, Bernie Nichols, former NHL great, Matt Diamond, obviously Adam as well, huge proponents. We talk about, we were working with Sportsnet, trying to get that. So Adam Griffith, is also part of our team, who's been working with Sportsnet. So it's been an interesting, let's call it 18 months, trying to get this back up and running, considering everything that's happened. So we're kind of excited now, where we've got a bit of a plan in place. Backers is finally now at the position where it can facilitate what it was actually built for. For those that are watching, I actually built Backers so that I could launch the 3HL, as crazy as that sounds, so that the 3HL, so we could get funding for the 3HL. And you'll understand how it all works and how it all connects and what Backers is and how the 3HL will benefit from the technology that Backers is facilitating. So that's kind of where we're at. We're excited. March 3rd is kind of pegged right now as the, obviously written in pencil, I think, with the way the world's going, right? That, March 3rd, which is we've dubbed 3-on-3 Hockey Day, obviously March being the third month, the third day, 3-on-3 hockey day. So we're attempting to try to launch with the first event on March 3rd, and then roll through sort of I'd say a small kind of preseason spring fling, whatever you want to call it, with then the regular kind of full season starting next fall, sometime probably September, October of 2022. So super excited. We've got a good group, a good, I'd say, advisory board of initial kind of participants, including yourself, Joe. And so I'm excited. I got my 3HL hoodie on, always representing. I've been wearing this for 6 years, so ready to get back at it. But that's kind of where we're at. So yeah, I'll end at that.
Well, I can see this. This is really going to grow and take off. I can't see any other alternative for this thing. Really, it's just unfortunately the pandemic came along when it did, and you talked about 3-on-3 day being penciled in because we it's all we can do. And with the state of the world the way it is. But you talked also about Bernie Nichols, a former 70-goal man, a guy who should be in the Hall of Fame. Isn't?
We're gonna petition to get him in there.
We're gonna petition for sure. Petition that.
Yeah.
You talked about some of the guys involved in Sportsnet, and a lot of exciting stuff here. This is I'm jacked up about this. I think that we've sky's the limit for this thing, and if it's not the hard and fast day of March 3rd, which would be perfect if it was, third month, third day, 3-on-3, et cetera, but there's also, you talked about a little bit touched on the crypto thing. Tell us about the crypto connection.
Yeah. So basically, I'm just trying to share this actually to trying to get our live stream in here. Anyways, so yeah, basically, crypto. How does that all work? So let's let the cat out of the bag a little bit as to what exactly Backers is and why it was created for the 3HL and how the 3HL is going to use it. So in a simple context, Backers was created to allow essentially private companies. So the 3HL is a private company, or the teams on the 3HL tour, they are companies, to be able to go out and sell ownership in that company to the community, right? So simply put, what it meant was that teams on the 3HL tour, so pro sports teams, pro hockey teams, could be owned primarily and operated by the fans. So it puts the ownership back into the hands of the fans. And this was inspired actually by a proven successful entity called, some may be familiar with, the Green Bay Packers, right? A very successful story franchise in the NFL. And essentially, the Green Bay Packers are a community-owned team. They have 360,000 shareholders. So that was the sort of inception of Backers, was the ability for us to create a platform that would allow for communities to own entities or businesses. And in this case, with the 3HL, it's the teams being owned by the local community. So that was sort of the inception of Backers and why it was created. And obviously it uses the cryptocurrency or cryptographic technology to facilitate this on the blockchain. So everyone's familiar with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, and every other cryptocurrency out there. Now, every single community, every single team on the 3HL tour will have its very own cryptocurrency that the fans can actually own and buy, sell, and trade as ownership in that team. It will also give them rights around voting and actual operational control of their team, their franchise on the 3HL tour. And similarly, the league itself, the 3HL, will have its own token as well that will represent ownership in the 3HL. And again, owners of that token will have a say in the operations of the league itself. So it's not just ownership where you benefit from the growth and the investment, but also you participate in the day-to-day activities. Did we lose you, Joe?
Right. Teams that are owned by the community represent the community. No, teams that are represented, and it's a community-based thing. It's pretty okay. I think pretty much covered it. Unless you can something else you'd like to.
Well, so yeah, it's basically here. Let me just so let's talk a little bit about the community-owned aspect. So I think a lot of people are trying to understand the community-owned aspect, and this is really where the backers concept comes into play. Essentially, in traditional sports, you have let's call it the Toronto Maple Leafs. So you've got MLSE is a publicly traded company, and they own and operate the Toronto Maple Leafs, among other the Toronto Raptors, and it is publicly traded, so people can sort of participate. We've got Ryan. Thanks, Ryan, for commenting. Awesome, appreciate it. So basically, that's a publicly traded company where you can own shares in that company, but it's a $1 billion corporation, and to become a publicly traded company, it costs tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of dollars to become a publicly traded entity, and there's huge oversight and costs associated with that. About 5 years ago, 2016, 6 years ago, I guess at this point, in Ontario specifically and across Canada, the government's opened up these new regulations to allow for private companies, no longer publicly traded companies, but private companies, to go out and sell equity or ownership in their business to everyday people, everyday retail investors, with as little as, on the backers platform, as little as $100. Somebody can invest in a private company. That private company can turn around and raise millions of dollars from these investors while still remaining a privately held company. So I think that's a key differentiator. So backers was created out of the concept of trying to fund teams in the 3HL. I want that to be very well known, that the reason I went out and started backers was to fund teams on the 3HL tour. And that's it, right? When doing so, I started to uncover that there were many, many other reasons that backers, or ways in which backers could be used, right? And there's so many other opportunities for small businesses and entrepreneurs to get funding for their business through the backers platform. Now, as we roll out the 3HL, though, again, we're going to use that platform and that technology to allow hockey fans, specifically 3-on-3 hockey fans or sports fans in general, because I think we're going to get a lot of crossover. People that are not used to hockey necessarily, when they see the brand of 3-on-3, the excitement, the end-to-end, the lack of whistles, no offsides, all these different things, the high scoring, lots of scoring opportunities, more similar to a basketball game. We're gonna get, I think, a lot of converts over that are gonna see the excitement of 3-on-3. And so we're gonna use that excitement, and we're gonna now allow fans to actually own, which I don't think exists. I'm not sure. I mean, I've heard of one potential league in the football sort of NFL sphere, looking at kind of like a DAO type setup, decentralized autonomous organization. There is no other pro sports league that I'm aware of, though, that facilitates the fans dictating the actual operations of the day-to-day game or various components of the game. Similarly, there's no sports team out there that is dictated or operated by the fans, right? You typically have one owner or a group of owners that own and dictate what happens to that team. With the 3HL and the teams on the 3HL tour, they're going to be owned and operated primarily by the fans. I mean, there will be some, obviously, management, certain oversight at the top, that kind of have to do a lot of the day-to-day, but the actual decision-making will be done by the fans through the use of a cryptocurrency that will represent the ownership, right? And then the voting will all be done through the blockchain. So everything will be there for all to see. And it's super exciting to kind of roll this out. We're going to put up a list of potential cities that we think would be exciting for to have teams in, and the fans then can go out and kind of build up that community around those teams and really build up the support around those teams, because they're the ones that are going to own and operate those teams.
Where can fans go, or people that are interested in becoming an owner, or be getting involved? Where would they be? How can we direct them to, if you will?
Well, so right now we're in the process of launching the 3HL crypto token. So the first step is they'll be able to go, and we'll keep talking about it here. Obviously, 3hltour.com is the site. It's slowly being updated with some of the content. I know we're going to have this show on a weekly basis, Tuesday mornings at 11, where we are talking about sort of what's happening with the 3HL. So follow along with us. Obviously, like you said, subscribe, like, share, follow. But yeah, basically they'll be able to go to 3hltour.com. They can watch the show here. Once the token is live on Backers, they'll be able to go and purchase the 3HL token or cryptocurrency on the backers.ca website. So they'll be able to go to Backers and buy the 3HL token. So they'll have ownership in the 3HL, which is 3HL Inc., which is the company that owns and operates the 3HL. And then from there, we're going to do a bit of we're kind of rolling this out, and this might be the first anyone's heard of this, but I was talking to a few people over the past week or two, and some concepts. Actually, this has been sort of boiling for probably 18 months, but we're going to roll out, we're going to allow for almost like an Upwork, like a Reddit style upvoting of teams, where we're going to put a team, and then we're going to allow that team, that city, or that location, we're going to expect a certain threshold of upvotes from fans for that team to be now eligible to be on the 3HL tour. And then somebody from that community will be designated to step up and to sort of manage those efforts. And then those very same fans that have upvoted that community will then have the ability to go and invest in that team and become a shareholder, an owner of that franchise. So it really will start right from grassroots, where we're going to allow, if you're in, I mean, we joke about different towns, but I'll throw the example. If you're in Leamington, for example, and I've got a list of about 33 communities across Ontario that we've identified as potentials. If you're in a community and you think you want a 3-on-3 professional hockey team in your community, that's playing against 64 other teams, and we'll talk about the rules and what that even means on a weekly basis, and you want your town, your city, your community represented, then we're going to allow you to upvote and build that community behind that team. And that's all that's going to take to get a professional sports team in your community. The support of the communities.
Well, Justin, there's a lot to consider. There's a lot to consider there, and a lot to think about, and that's a lot that we can't wait till for next week's show. We explain this a little bit further and talk a little bit further about where we're at and how it's coming together. So, listen, 3HL Day scheduled for March 3rd. Let's see how things unfold. Hopefully, we can get that underway. But that's it. There you go for week one of this installment. And I'm Joe Tilley for Justin Fox. We'll see you soon.
It's we got to get a name for this show, but we'll get it. I don't know. 3HL Weekly. Who knows? We'll call it something. Anyways,
yeah, sure.
3HL Weekly. Anyways, everyone appreciate.
Give us some thought. Yeah.
And we're gonna get your internet going.
Thanks,
You're gonna get your internet up in Mexico going a little better.
Yeah, a little better. Yeah. I got a plan from Bell that fell apart because I thought I had 2 gigs a day. It turned out I had 2 gigs for the month. So.
Oh, really? Okay.
Anyway, I'm gonna get a SIM card and do it the old-fashioned way. Yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, everyone else, thanks for joining us. Appreciate the time. We will talk again soon. Thanks, Joe. Take care. Enjoy the weather down there. Everyone else, stay safe up here in Ontario. We'll talk soon.